Hello again, one and all, and we're going to be looking again at the Tau, and this time in consideration of colours and things. I've got the codex in front of me, and we're going to look in there, and I'm going to show you my process of thought, the way it all went through. I mean, I've chosen Borcan because I like the idea of them being scientists, them being academics, but because of the greater good, having to go out there and get stuck in bloody combat. And a lot of the supporting imagery you ever saw with Borcan was a sort of white snow effect, maybe something like a Space Wolves type grey that has been final highlighted up to a white, or a white, as you might want to call it. Obviously you can't base with a white because you can't get any whiter than white to highlight and to highlight. So anyway, I dropped that idea in the end because it seemed too bothersome, and I didn't like the idea of a full army being uniformed in that. But white scars make it work, and I think maybe just leave it there. So I didn't know what to do. Obviously, as long as the sept colour, the aquamarine type colour, I don't know why I pointed at that. It's a bit like that, I suppose. Is right. It doesn't matter what colour they are because it's just the terrain that they pick their camouflage and armour colour for. So if we go into the codex, and this is where obviously inspiration and things will come from. This is a great image. For me, this is exciting because it shows you another side of Tau that you don't normally get to see. Just this weird sort of like Vox mouth part AI humanoid thing. Yeah. Anyway, look, if we go into the codex and start trying to pull up imagery, and I mean, a lot of the imagery, the most common one you ever see is the ochre sort of thing. I don't know why I'm showing the page with white on right now when I'm saying this, but it is, isn't it? I mean, that's the ochre right there. And I wanted to avoid that because that is just so obvious. And we see here white and red being done quite nicely, actually, to a quite dramatic effect. But I didn't fancy it so much. But, yeah, not bad. So it didn't help me, really, that image. And if we... It's just the typical, again, the typical, you know, images, but again, the typical. And eventually, as blue, to me, that was a bit too much, you know. All one solid colour there, and that way a typical and typical. There was a sort of reddy hued one with brown kind of colours. Nice, but I didn't want a whole force looking like that necessarily. I tend to like something a bit more muted, and so I started actually considering this because, you know, it's got the elements of the orange and the blue to, you know, really make it stand out from itself, and I thought that could work, but then I realised, oh wait, the orange is the sept right there, isn't it? So I'd actually be Borcan, and I'd bork it all up with blue on blue, you know, and it wouldn't look quite as smexy as that does what look. And then I came across this image, and I said, "Hey, you what? Huh?" Now, they've got a sept colour that's sort of red. So that would be probably, what, viola or something like that. But I thought, I might be able to make this work. I mean, that's interesting. What is that colour? I thought to myself. I must find it. I must capture it. So I looked through colour ranges and chatted with GW staff about how to capture that colour. And we went down the road of trying to take the slightly browny approach and then go from there. So I first got hold of some Karak stone and tried going from there as a base, because the whole idea was whatever colour I was going to use, I would use it as the middle component, okay? So I would, you know, paint it on and then line in with a wash of some sort, and then, you know, highlight up and be ready to paint back down the base and highlight back up again, and, you know, basically starting in the middle and working both ways out rather than starting at the bottom and working up. That way, keeping it very nice and making sure that the colour you want as the main colour is the main colour. You know, the main colour is the main colour that you've chosen, and everything else is only supporting it, not overtaking it too much. Sounds really complex, and I guess it does make it sound quite complex. But anyway, I tried experiments with Karak stone. That didn't work out to look exactly like this as the final result. You know, Karak stone and then highlighting whiter varieties up from there. So I had to think about it more. What was I going to do next? What was I going to look into? And I was also thinking about inking, you know, how was I going to wash those lines? How was I going to line in these very specific joints and shapes that you see in the armour there, like that one in the helmet, and see the top of the shoulder there, you've got one that goes up and across and down and across. Another one there that does the same, but in the opposite direction. Like all the joints on the legs, they do it here. And all this lining effect. And I was looking possibly at oils. Yeah, taking like some white spirits or something and lashing that on, and then trying to clean it up with a cotton wool bud or something like that with some white spirit on it, and then painting onwards. But I was warned about the drying time for using oil, so I did get some oil, so I am ready to do it if need be, just as an experiment to see if I like the process. And I might do it on one of the big guys, on one of the suits. But I decided, I'll just go with some Agrax Earthshade maybe. But then I thought, oh, that's too obvious. So there needs to be another way of doing it. So, what did I do? How did I start painting? What colours did I choose in the end? All these questions, well, you'll have to look for the next video. Part 2, coming extremely soon to you on Of Tau and Colours. I'll see you at that one.